and listeners of the Village Global Network. We are here for Exposed to the North, presenting the 167th episode of Candid Conversations, brought to you in part by Zeno.fm as well as Restream.io. Whew, that's a long calling card. Thank
You did good though.
you. Oh man, so how are you doing today? We are here with Miss Karen Denise, aka Golden Bronze, and we're going to be discussing the Golden Swan Cadre.
Hello, David. Thank you, and thank you for inviting me to your platform. I appreciate it.
No problem.
You want me to go ahead and talk about me? Okay.
Yes, by all means, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we're the Golden Swan Cadre. It is 12 of us. We're all um, issue. Domestic violence is just enormous. Every 9 seconds, someone in the United States, a woman, is getting beaten or assaulted by her significant other. And I'm a survivor, two-time survivor of domestic abuse. I was married for a very long time and just felt like I was stuck. Eventually, when I got out of it, it was a task and a long journey back to healing mentally, physically, financially, emotionally. And all through that process of healing myself, I had decided that I wanted to always do something to bring awareness to domestic abuse and help other people. A lot of people, David, will say, "Oh, I've never experienced any kind of domestic abuse." But in fact, there's about 5 or 6 different categories of it. And if you live to be past 40, you've experienced some sort of domestic abuse. So one of the things that I wanted to do was bring awareness to it. And I left my nursing job in 2022 right after I had COVID twice, and I'm a nurse by career. So after I got well, almost died, and got through all of that, I decided that I wanted to start a nonprofit to bring awareness to as many people as possible. I know I can't change the world, but ladies that want to remove themselves from that to do so. So I started this nonprofit, and I was really afraid to do so because I am afraid of public speaking. But I am here on your platform facing my fears because I know that I have to get the word out that we are an entity and that we are trying to bring awareness to it and minimize it. We know we can't eradicate it, but education is key. And if we can just let people know what it is, they're aware of it if they're in it or if they're the abuser, to try to be accountable for themselves and remove themselves or stop being an abuser. And that's how we started Golden Swan Cadre. I reached out to several ladies. The Holy Spirit, I'm going to say that it's not a religious platform, but just kind of put on my heart people that I knew in my life that would help me build this nonprofit. And they all jumped on board. Everybody seems to be passionate about it just as much as I am. And so we decided to start this nonprofit to um, help other ladies. And we need to let everybody know that we're here and what we do.
Okay. All right. So the mission objective. What would you say that was to like the cause, the root cause? Well, not the root cause. Sorry, the root objective of your mission.
Okay. Our mission actually is to reach out to women to show them that you don't have to be downtrodden, beaten up, low self esteem, not taking care of yourself. Self care, self love, self esteem is all important to being able to have the strength, the motivation to remove yourself from being in an abusive situation. So, our mission is to advocate against it through education, through um, building up the ladies' self esteem, kind of counseling them. We have a psychologist in our group, we have two life coaches in our group, we have two ministers in our group. a nurse myself. We have women of all these occupations and careers that can actually mentor these ladies. So the mission is to give them that self esteem, show them they have to love themselves, take care of themselves, and walk them through the process of rebuilding themselves to remove themselves from being abused.
Okay. All right. That is awesome. That is
Thank you.
awesome. So, I mean, the circumstances not so much as the mission, obviously. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And for you to find strength in fear as it would come across, as you said, you have a fear of public speaking. And so
Right.
far you're doing very well speaking
Thank you.
fluently. There's no like I mean, I'm stuttering more than you did, and I've done this for going on 700 episodes in total. So
Thank you, David.
you're welcome. So if that's any help for to indicate how well you're doing, then And I think like to I guess I had another question to ask, but I'm gonna circumvent that and then jump to another one. Do you have your own podcast?
We don't have a podcast, but we have a couple of ladies in our cadre. A cadre is just a entity, a unit, and we're a sisterhood. We do have other ladies that have podcasts, and we have gone on one. We're scheduled to go on another lady. She just started her podcast, so like she's brand new at it. But one
Okay.
of the things that I thought that I would do, David, is like I go on Clubhouse a lot. I don't know if you're familiar with Clubhouse. Are you?
Heard of? Yes. Familiar?
Yes.
Not entirely.
Okay.
I
Go ahead.
okay. No. I know that it's like a social media platform where different creatives and business people basically congregate in whatever rooms they are like that are like-minded to them.
Right. So I set up, now they're changing those rooms to houses. So I set up a house called Gab with Golden Bronze on Clubhouse. And every first Tuesday, we go on Clubhouse and we talk about an aspect of domestic abuse. We can't talk about it all at each episode, but we do venture out into different topics related to domestic abuse there to try to just make people aware of it. And then I also have a YouTube, which I did stream this to it. So while you're on here, I think I'm streaming on live on my YouTube as well.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
we do have that YouTube channel called At Home with Golden Bronze, and that is every third Thursday of the month. So those are two platforms that we're using to just get the word out about Golden Swan Cadre. And David, I also wanted to mention that one of the other things that we've done and that we plan to do
Mhm.
is we've partnered we're building relationships with domestic abuse shelters. So we've built a relationship with two in Dallas County. We're working on one in Tarrant County. We have a member in Oklahoma City, so we hope to partner with a domestic abuse center in Oklahoma City and in Houston. And we have a lady that lives in Seattle, Washington. So we're trying to touch other states, not just the one that I live in.
Mhm.
And we partner with these domestic abuse centers. We're self funded right now, but we do provide them with whatever they ask us for. So, for instance, we had one in Dallas that they opened up a salon within their domestic abuse center and they wanted black hair care products. So, we did a Black hair care product drive, and then we provided their new salon with black hair care products for their residents. So we do things like that um,
Awesome.
to help these centers. And if a young lady should call, we have um, on our Facebook and Instagram page, we have contact information where people can go there to reach out to us, and that is on Instagram, the official underscore Golden Swan Cadre. And then on Facebook, it's simply Golden Swan Cadre. We have buttons and we have tabs where they can actually click those buttons and reach us by telephone or email. And if they should reach out to us in need, they're in harm's way and they need to get away from wherever they're at, but they can't get to a domestic abuse center at that moment. Our hope is that we would be able to put them in a hotel or motel, not a 5 star, but somewhere safe for a day, two, a week, or 2 weeks, however it takes for us to work with the domestic abuse center to get them in the center. So we're not like the resolution, we're the interim to get them from harm's way to a safe place until they can get in a domestic abuse center. And if their choice is not to go to a center, then we'll help facilitate getting them to a family, to friends, or to a safe place, but we don't house them indefinitely. Our housing of them is just a temporary situation to get them out of harm's way. And I wanted to mention that that's the other thing that we do. Besides educating and giving, motivation, we do try to provide resources as well.
That's important.
Yes.
That is important because resources are necessary when you're, you know what I mean, when you're trying to get from one point to another, or when you're trying to establish yourself where you are. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And I tell you, we also, David, by partnering with the domestic abuse centers, they gave us intake questionnaire, I guess you could say, that the ladies have to meet criteria. They don't take in people that are alcoholics, even if they're in a domestic abuse situation or if they're on drugs, because they have children in these centers. They have to make sure everybody's safe. So we do an intake questionnaire before we, you know, obligate ourselves to make sure that we're able to help them. So they do have to meet criteria. They have to be a citizen of the United States, have to have a social security card. We have to make sure they're not just homeless looking for a place to live, that they're actually in an abusive situation, needing to remove themselves from that situation. So we follow the center's criteria for helping them. Yes.
All right. Excellent. Oh, man. So, it sounds like you have all bases covered. But before you got to the field, what was the most difficult thing in starting this endeavor?
Just my fear, honestly. I have always worked with charities. I worked with one before that um, we helped we helped intercity underprivileged children, and I was in that organization for like 10 years. And I used to always tell the other ladies that my passion was really that I wanted to do something for domestic abuse victims because, as I said, I was one, and it was hard getting back on my feet. And so my biggest fear was just um, acceptance, I guess, if people would help do it because you can't do it alone. Um, I've been like on social media bullied already, to told that it's not my fight, that I need to leave it alone. And so those kind of things, you have to push beyond that online bullying and just know it's kind of a mission that I'm on, something that's dear to my heart. Because as being a victim, I knew how hard it was to do it. And now I can say I'm a survivor and I just want to reach back and pay forward. So that was my biggest fear is, being taken seriously and people willing to donate to us to help us, to carry forward.
Hmm. I mean, if there was a day in the week that you could dedicate to such a format similar to this one, I would recommend entertaining the idea of doing so because sometimes all it takes is a conversation for people to be
Mhm.
enlightened to a better course of action. So, if you were to set up, say, a similar format where you could have someone either email you and then send the link, or type in messages to you, you might be able to reach more people. You'd be able to reach more people in that time frame as well. Again, if it fits
Do you mean do you mean like the YouTube that you're talking, or what exactly do you
I mean,
mean?
Well, something like the YouTube show, but the YouTube shows are like post production, right? Like you film them, you put them, you edit them, and then you put them up. Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean like a moment in time, like if you were to take like maybe a half an hour on a day and
Hmm.
just kind of maybe I want to say enlighten people as to how they can facilitate services in the community or recognize things where they might be able to provide help in these kinds of
Like,
situations.
yeah, like maybe doing a Facebook Live or
Yeah,
something
like
like
a
that
Facebook.
one day.
Yeah. We just have someone in the chat
Okay,
here.
I saw that.
Okay, Survivor and
Yes,
Thriver. Yes, Gwinnell Span.
yes, yes. Well, that's something, I will do. I, David, have always been like the fly on the wall, the worker bee behind the scenes, and putting myself out front is, like I said to you, kind of a fear that I'm trying to get over. And you're helping me do that by being on this platform. I do think I will venture out and try to do Instagram and Facebook lives and talk about it that way and get some engagement. That's a great idea. Thank you for the suggestion.
No problem. And even if you were, and the thing is, like this channel that I'm using right here, Restream, Survivor for sure. I'm so proud of you, says Bianca Magnifique. This
Yeah.
this platform Restream.io that I'm using allows you to connect. The only one it doesn't have yet, and I'm gonna shake my finger at them for this, is Instagram. But I think Instagram has specific time frames that you're allowed to operate for, where it comes to the live,
Mm.
and you have to be at a specific amount of users before you can actually access the live, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
but Instagram is not one of the social media platforms that this connects to, but it connects to Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and about 40 other platforms.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah. So if you look at the platforms that it connects to, you could make an account for. I'd recommend the free ones for now because you don't know what kind of traction you can get from them. But when you start getting traction, you can see which ones you get the best response from, and then work with those to kind of further your message.
I did see that when I was logging on. Thriver, a lot of those platforms I've never heard of, but I will on the back channel get that information from you
Okay.
and check it out
All right.
because that is what we want to do. We just want to let people know that Golden Swan Cadre is here for them and what we're about and solicit donations. We are a 501c3. We are tax exempt. I'm in the process of getting that determination letter from the IRS so that they can write it off on their taxes. And we're trying to get ourselves in a position where we can do even more and be more impactful in the communities that we serve. That is my number one mission right now is to raise funds, get become make people aware of us and what we're all about so that they will want to support us. And I do get a lot of verbal support and I get mostly from men, which is I'm so happy. It's amazing to me. We get more support from the men talking about what a wonderful um, organization we have here and that they're proud of us more so than we do the women. But we tag ourselves as women helping women and women empowering women. But the majority of our support is coming from men. And I just think that's awesome.
Yes, it's good. It's good to know because I, man, there's so many misconceptions of the today's society. It's like, why is it seen as the guy who knocks the books out of your hand is seen as the guy who likes you? Why isn't it the guy that holds your hand and walks with you, or what I mean, picks you a flower or
Hmm.
something? That's not the way we're teaching our young needs to be revisited in some ways, and I think personally, meditation should be included in more in more schools.
Well, they took out prayer, so there's where your problem started.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm telling you, it's one of those things where it's like, are you serious?
And
Yeah, yeah. Ah,
David, what with these young kids,
hmm
um, girls, young girls, we want to set an example for them. So, like, one of our things is that we try to represent ourselves as, you know, respectable, refined, fashionable, dignified, um, sophisticated, intelligent women, so that maybe younger women, and there's a few that's on here that look up to us because we dress professionally, whether it's casually or business. We They get used to young boys calling them bitches and hoes, and excuse me, but that's abuse. And
Wow.
then if you end up with it's all in the rap
No,
music,
oh,
and
we're
you
gonna
know.
talk about that in a second. Don't worry. We're gonna talk about that in a second. I was just like, my, her voice is so pleasant. To hear those words come out of it is like it's foul.
Well, it's true,
It's
and
true. You're
then
not
they get
wrong. You're not wrong.
so when a guy say, "Hey, bitch," they think that's a compliment,
Yeah.
but to me, that's an insult,
Nowadays, yeah, you
So
gotta be a bad bitch or something like that. If you nah. Give me a good woman any day. I'll take her over whatever hell the latest rap guy is saying is your connotation
right.
for bitch. I just can't. I got sisters. Let me start there. Let me start there.
Okay.
I get walloped if I refer to any woman in a derogatory manner unless they decided she deserved it. And even then,
Yay.
even
Yay.
then,
That's my fighting word. I mean, and my mother didn't name me that. So
yeah,
when these guys are calling these teenage girls and 20-year-olds these names, if they when they get in a relationship and then they're called a bag of bitches and a sack full of hoes, they don't know that that's abuse.
yeah.
They don't know that. So we're here to teach them that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they gotta know. They gotta know. Like it's, I don't swear in my music. I think I have one song on YouTube where I swore once, and I brought it back to my English teacher, and I showed it to her, and she's like, "Really?" I was just like, "Oh." Like I was so proud of the
Right.
production and everything, like the video quality, the editing, and everything. She was just looking at the vocabulary, like, "Bruh, I didn't, I
Yes.
didn't spend this, I didn't spend the time I did teaching you English for you to just bastardize the
Exactly.
vocabulary." So I
Exactly.
can understand. I can understand so much more now because of, you know what I mean, just the openness that I've shared with women. Like y'all, I don't.
It helps that you have sisters too, David.
Oh
It
yeah.
helps a lot.
Oh
Yeah.
yes. Yes, definitely. I learned so many things not to do,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that's a problem with a lot of people. They don't like. I've heard that. Like I have friends who have been raised with brothers, and I have friends who've been raised with sisters, and there is a different dynamic when you like depending on where you come up. Like my family is like women are prominent in my family. Like they're everywhere. Like I have five sisters, sorry. Um then there's my aunties on my mom's side. I have six of them. On my dad's side, I have six, seven of them.
Wow.
Yeah. And then my cousins, oh my God, my cousins, like they're everywhere. And a good percentage of them are female. And it's like, yeah, okay. I
Mhm.
I remember like growing up around my grandmother and her friends, and I had to know like how to make 12 different cups of coffee by the time I was 8. So when I'm seeing these people who can't hold a door open, or you know what I mean, they're
Right.
just downright not pulling their weight, it bothers me greatly. But I don't know how to speak to it because it's not. I have this other philosophy that it's not my ducks and it's not my pond because, and I have that philosophy because when I get wet, sometimes I get angry. If you get the reference,
Yes. Mhm. Yes. Mhm.
you know,
Yes.
so
I don't know. I think that like a guy got in my Facebook and was really going after me for having this platform. And finally, I had to remove myself from that conversation because I'm thinking what he's doing to me now is abusive. It's bullying. So he probably is an abuser, and this is touching a nerve with him because I kind of took the flyer that you gave me and advertised this
mhm,
podcast tonight. And I think that one of the things that he said in his argument with me, m- it might hold a little validity, but I don't know, is that he said that some of the women raising boys are not teaching the young men how to
Ooh.
treat women. And I couldn't argue that because I have daughters. I don't have boys, but um
I hate to agree, but it does some of the onus, because I was even speaking to one of my friends the other day, and she said, "You're right. If my child raises or is raised to be an asshole, then that's my fault because it's my child. If I'm not teaching them what they need to know, then how can I expect them to know that?" So there is weight to a statement, but if it came from a place of malice, then I wouldn't give it too much.
yes, it came from a place of
Yeah,
malice.
yeah. He's butthurt. Let him fight a toilet.
Yeah,
You don't need to deal with that defecation. Let him fight a toilet.
right.
And that's the thing. Sometimes people just don't like getting gut checked, and that's what needs to happen more often. People need to. I know one person, and I don't entirely agree with it, but I don't entirely disagree with it. He heard something happen to someone close to him. It was reported to the police. Police didn't do nothing about it, so he took it upon himself to do something. Now, I don't condone vigilantism, but I also have a WWE title in the screen. So,
Mhm.
you know,
But you know, David, that's true because some of the ladies in my squad, 1 or 2, they're not all domestic abuse victims. I would say maybe half of us and the other half are just passionate about advocating against it. But in my case and others' cases where we did call the police,
yeah.
they did absolutely nothing.
Hmm.
And I remember saying to a policeman one time, "Well, I guess if he kills me, then you'll want to do something to him about it." So that person that you're referencing took it upon himself.
Yep.
We're not supposed to do that, but then I don't know if it matters if you're black or if you're white. I hate to say that, but I can tell you many, 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 many times I called the police and they didn't do anything.
Yep. It wouldn't strike me as off. We're getting some comments in the chat. This is one of the most active chat comments. Usually it's just like a couple of words, but they're putting like statements and thought into here. It's even more
Yeah.
sad that women use the word as some weird term of endearment. We need to get out of that mentality. I think that's referring to the term bitch.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely.
And then we also have that is correct. Though men also need to mentor young men to be respectful. Women can show them how women want to be treated. And you know what?
That's
I'm gonna
true.
ease the strain up for a little bit because I don't want the male watchers to be like, oh, well, they're just man bashing. Don't get butthurt, okay? Like we understand there's two sides to the coin, all right? We're just
Right.
the one side of the coin just so happens to be more prevalent than the other side of the coin. So let's address
Right.
that side of the coin, and once that side of the coin's addressed, we'll flip it over, and then we'll talk about the other side of the coin, which we're about to do for a second. Now, women like me myself as a man with a daughter, I one of the things I told her before, like, oh my gosh, I've been telling her this for 13 years, books before boys because boys bring babies. Now, I don't want to come across as if I'm trying like brainwashing her or something like that. But
Right.
it's one of those things where I know what it was like being a young man, and I understand there's a whole bunch of different things that my friends were trying to convince me I should have been doing that I shouldn't have done, and I did anyway. So
Mhm.
let's not make this about me. So in knowing that, right, I don't
Mhm.
like I understand she's gonna grow and develop in her own way, but I still let her know, okay, like it's not the guy who knocks your books down. It's a guy that'll talk to you with respect. It's the the friends that will be there when you need help. Like, you know what I mean? Like anybody can be there when you have everything, but who's there when you need help? Um
Right.
and those are things you got to take into consideration. I even told her myself, I'm not always right. There are days where you might have to do something that I don't agree with, but as long as you can respectfully express that, then
Mhm.
we shouldn't have a problem. So
That's right.
to go into some of these like some of the quarrels, if people have communication like that, some of the quarrels that occur might be a little bit lesser. But I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. Communication is the key. That's what I wanna put out there. I've been in. I had an argument today. I was at the peak of my escalation, and I was just like, take a step back. What am I upset about? How can I communicate more effectively? And then, I expressed myself. But in the heat of the moment, sometimes the passion just burns, and there has to be someone to be able to quell it. Uh,
Right. You have to have control over that escalation point or that rage. That's when it comes across as abuse. If you start yelling and screaming, and depending on the vocabulary used, the if you are emasculating or demeaning, that's all abuse. So if we can like take a second to think about what we're about to say before we say it, and that's not always possible because a lot of times things come out and you try to take it back, but it's too late because you already put it out there. But if you can have some self-control, all of us, not just you, me, and everybody, or sometimes less is best said.
yep.
Um, and if you can articulate your feelings um, appropriately, that's good communication. It's not always necessary to say what you're thinking. It's how you say it that matters.
So that is very true. That's very accurate. I am horrible for
Mhm.
that because I used to be a battle rapper, so I always said what I was thinking and dealt with the consequences. But before
Mhm.
after that, I realized, I don't need to be in this situation right now. So let me just,
Remove
just
remove
remove
yourself,
myself
huh?
from that. So
Yes.
yeah, and I
Mhm.
realized when I got to the point that I had like there was 5 people trying to battle me by myself, I'm just like, but guys,
Oh, wow.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
Yes.
oh yeah, I pull no punches. So um, it's just one of those things. But I was gonna say we are just about at the halfway point of the podcast, and this is where I test your metal. Um, and this is an interesting thing I've been doing for the past several months now. Is where I flip the script, and when I flip the script, I give the guest the opportunity to become the host and share whatever experiences they may want or ask any questions they may have or make any statements they may want to make. So at this point, I would like to give you the floor.
Okay. Well, you mentioned earlier that you wanted to make sure if there were any men watching that they didn't feel like we were male bashing.
Yes.
And I want to let them know also that I am partnering with another man in Dallas, Texas, who is going to start a similar nonprofit, except for men, because we do realize that women can be abusive as well. More women encounter it from men than men from women, because 1.3 million women are victims of physical violence by their intimate partner, and almost half of that, maybe 835,000 men per year. So you see the disparity there. It's like way more many women than men. But however, we've had a couple of men call us for help since we started this nonprofit. And so another man that I have used to work with another charity decided that he would flip the script and he would start a nonprofit where men will be helping men that are victims of domestic abuse. And I am going to help him set that charity up. It's going to be mirrored after mine. So, men, don't get your pants in a wad. We're going to do the same thing for you, too. We're just trying to get this one up and going first because more women are victims of domestic abuse than men, period. So, we're trying to get this one up first, and then we're there for you, too, as soon as we get this one done.
So
So,
in the interim, you can be supportive, learn about the facets that are in place, research the ones that are likened to yours. There,
exactly.
you're welcome. Uh, I like to cover all bases here because you never
Yes.
please everybody, but as long as I piss off the least amount of people, I'm good.
Right, right. I agree. I've learned that you can't please everybody. I mean, I didn't think anybody would be upset by us starting this nonprofit, and I'm getting all kind of crazy comments in my DMs, and I'm having to grow some thicker skin because it's all done in love. It's all done for good. We're not trying to come after anybody. We're trying to help people that want help. So I appreciate your making that point. We're going to do the same thing for the men, not me, but he is with his organization.
Hmm.
I'm just going to assist him in doing that.
All right, all right. There you go. There you go.
What is we have someone named Brendan on here.
Brendan, 1996. Yep, from
Yeah.
Twitch. How's it going, Brendan? All right. So yeah, yeah. This is a nice conversation. Like I'm learning more. So, okay, what are things we can do to teach our youth how to better communicate with each other so that these kinds of conflicts are lesser prevalent and easier resolved?
I think one of the first thing is their verbiage that they use, like calling little girls and young girls bitches and other things. And I think that if men um, which they probably do, and women would teach young men how about chivalry, how to treat a lady, and then the women teach their daughters how to be receptive. There are things that you do when like if a man opens the car door for you and sits you in the car, you shouldn't just sit in the car. You should reach over and open his door for him. That's how my father taught me, and I remember the first time I did that, it like surprised the guy. He's like, "Wow, you opened the door for me? Well, you opened it for me. So once I got in, I opened it for you. That's how I was taught. So if we go back to that home teaching and teach young men how to treat a young lady and young ladies how to treat and talk to young men and to reciprocate the chivalry, that is a start right there. That's a start right there. And then we have to teach them how to articulate their feelings without rage, without anger, which is self-control. So you have to really teach your children self-control and that they can't, like I'll tell you, I used to tell my daughters that you can think whatever you want to think, just don't let it come out of your mouth. And whatever you're thinking, if it's not appropriate, that's between you and God. But be careful what you speak because a lot of times when you throw it out there, you can't take it back.
Mm,
And people sometimes don't forget it. And a lot of people won't forgive you. So, you know,
I said some,
that's a
yeah,
start
I said
right
something to
there.
my dad when I was 5 years old, and he did not let it go until I was out of the house, and it was like I was there till I was 25. So, and I'm sure he'll remind me if I say the wrong set of words. Like so,
Yes,
it's just
yes.
one of those things. None
Mhm.
but love for Pop Dukes, though. It's just, oh, life as it happens. Oh my goodness.
Right. So that's what we can teach our children for starters. And then the other thing is you have to be the example. Kids look at grown people and emulate them. So if you're like a potty mouth or emasculating your husband or demeaning your wife, they think that's normal if they're not taught that it's not. So it starts at home just like everything else.
Hmm. Starts at home, ladies and gentlemen. I'm
Hmm.
sitting here in a situation where I had a conversation with an individual about children getting to know themselves before they were thrust into the world of all of these. Uh, there's no way. I never know how to speak on this topic because it's so volatile. But like where it comes to
Hmm.
I'm just gonna call it the gender issue. I don't want to call it an issue, but the gender
Hmm.
conversation, we'll say. Um, let's let them be kids. let's Let's let them be
Exactly.
kids. They have been figuring it out for years. They will figure it out. We don't have to force in their head. We can direct them according to what's reasonable, but like if we're gonna direct them, we need to let them know like how to operate as kids and how to operate in their household and how to understand the emotions they're undertaking. Not force thoughts and ideas into their head because they're impressionable.
And that's exactly a point that what you said is a good point. Not to help them to understand the thoughts that they're having in their head, and how to deal with those thoughts. To be able, they have to feel comfortable talking with their parents. So many kids aren't. They're not comfortable talking with mom and dad. I don't know why.
I can tell you why.
But I
I can
mean,
tell
my
you exactly why.
okay,
From
go ahead.
from my perspective as from a child's perspective, it was there were times where I had something to say, and sometimes my parents' reactions to it, and like I said, I love them to life, but sometimes my parents' reactions weren't the greatest. So after a series of reactions that were unfavorable to my person, I decided it wouldn't be of benefit to share certain circumstances with my parents because because of their reaction to liking stories. And my daughter even said that same thing to me. So I was like, okay, so I have to revisit how I approach these things. And I even said to her, I said, okay, I understand sometimes my reactions are not the greatest to what you present to me, but you still need to give me the time to have my reaction because the reaction is based on the information I receive.
Mhm.
So,
That's true too. Hey, David, read that comment up there. That's a good one from Mickey
okay,
G.
parents must watch their language and behavior before their children. Children are mimics, yes. Giselle also says, train up a child. Sorry, Gwenelle. Where'd I get Giselle from? My eyes
Hmm.
are playing tricks on me. Um,
That's why I wear
I got
glasses.
mine on though, fam. I have a zero excuse. Mickey G again says healthy tools to process emotions are important. Have children tell you how they're feeling, something more specific than I'm mad. It may be fear or sadness. Then give them ways to process and cope. Process and cope, because coping is a very important
Yes,
skill as well. Learning how to deal with one's
that's
emotions
right.
and the byproducts therein, because there is a chemical coefficient involved in that as well that that is often
Exactly.
overlooked. So it's like the tears thing. Like there's a difference between angry tears and sad tears, sorrowful tears,
Right. And happy
and happy
tears,
tears. Yeah.
even, you know? Yeah. And but let me tell you, I have mad tears when I get, if I start
Oh
crying,
boy.
oh boy.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Cause I can hold my emotions. And I think that most of my friends will tell you that they haven't really seen me angry, angry. But when I get there, I will get emotional and cry. And sometimes I just have to walk away if I'm that angry. And so there are tears where you can be angry and
Yeah.
happy.
True. I I liken myself to Taz being tased when I'm angry. It's just it's just see, I use that reference because it
That's
usually
funny.
gets a laugh, and then the person thinks about it for a second. They're like, "Wait a minute, that's."
Yeah.
But that's why,
There are some people you're like,
yeah,
she's crying. We better move out of the way.
one of those things. Okay, okay, yeah. No, I
Uh-huh.
have to, I have to bury myself in my studio. If I get too much, nope. Find me in the corner, give me some music to listen to, let me put on some headphones. Because if I have to respond to this, it's not going to be pretty. So I've adopted the moniker, I am not the
Mhm.
one, and it is not today. So if someone hears me say that phrase, it's a good chance they might want to change the entire topic of conversation.
I know that's right. I know that's
Someone came
right.
at me strong the other day, and I'm just like, wait a minute, I'm helping you. I am not the one, and it is not today, young lady. Hold on.
Right. So exit to the left.
Let's pull up the bus for a second. Pull up the bus. So,
Mhm.
oh my goodness. Oh, this is gonna,
David, I also wanted to mention though before we run
yeah.
out of time, I don't know what the time is like, but um I wanted to mention that a lot of women stay in abusive marriages or situationships, even, if they're just shacking up, because they feel it's too dangerous for them to leave. Like, for instance, um, their finances, they may have been a housewife and never worked and dependent on their husband, or they feel like, oh, my children, I don't want them to be in a broken home, a statistic. That was my thing. I didn't want my children to be a statistic or they have other reasons tied to why they're staying. And a lot of women, when they leave, they are 70 times more likely to be killed by their abuser because they left home. So they fear leaving and sometimes are told, I will kill you if you try to leave me. So, it's really an epidemic that spans across all ethnicities, all age groups, all financial status groups, and it's gone silent. It's a silence that most people are afraid to talk about. And I just wanted to mention that a lot of women stay for that reason, and we're here to encourage them that they don't have to do that. And we're examples. So I mentioned to you, it is 12 of us, and probably half or maybe a little more have been in some domestic abuse or violence situation. And we got the courage to walk away from it. We might have been on the bottom, which I was, and worked our way up. And so we want the ladies to look at us like, look at them now. They look where they are now. They did it. If they can do it, we can do it. And that's the example that we're trying to set for other women that are in these situations, that they can be as attractive, as fashionable, as sophisticated, elegant, as educated as they want to be. They just have to have the courage to walk away. And so we're here to help them do that. And I just wanted to mention that because more women get murdered just trying to leave, unfortunately.
Oh man, that is not the way things should be. I just don't understand how the ways of the world are so just. It's like everybody wants to live a good life, but people go out of their way to interfere with other people. And okay, I don't understand this situation. Okay, I don't
Hmm.
understand that. Like, I'm not saying it can't happen, but I just don't understand how someone's psychology is so marred that they can't release someone who doesn't see benefit, favor, or reason to be with them. It's just done. Let it go.
I know. I know when I was married, I said to my ex who was abusive, you don't love me anymore. I don't love you anymore. Why don't you just leave? And his answer was, put me out this MF, because he wanted to fight. I'm not trying to get beat up. Okay. So
Mm,
I happened to have to live with him for many years until I had a cousin to help me get out of that situation. But that's bullying, that's narcissistic, that is selfish, degrading. We were sleeping in different bedrooms. He was in my home and I couldn't get him out. He wanted me to physically remove him, knowing that I couldn't do that. And I wasn't going to try to do that. So, to answer your question, I have never figured out why someone's psychology would make them want to themselves remain in that situation, let alone make someone else endure it. I don't
mm.
understand it either.
Uh, that's that's beyond me. Like, to touch base on the personal, I was like, when my wife wanted a divorce, I said, okay, TV, car's yours, house is mine.
Yeah. That's the way it should be done, but for some reason, people wanna fight. I don't understand it. I
Pride.
wasn't that person, and these women in the cadre are not that. They were victims like myself, but they are now survivors, and they're all doing very well, and we just want to show other women that this can be you too. But if you need us to take your hand and pull you along, we'll do that. We'll do that.
Mm, good. Some people need that. Some people need that.
Mhm.
We got about 10 minutes left in the show. Just wondering if there is anyone specifically you want to shout out or, send regards to.
Sure. I'd like to shout out to the Golden Swan Cadre, Mickey, Bianca, Gwinnell, Suzette, Dr. Terry, Lynette, Ann, Julianne, Beverly, Angeline. I think I covered them all, for being a part of the Golden Swan Cadre, for putting in so much work, for having the passion and the desire to help women that are in situations that we were once in. And I appreciate you all. I love you all. And we've got a lot of work to do. We just got to let the world know that we're here and get those donations for, to help us do more than we can do right now. We're trying to get there. We're self-funded right now.
To donate by way of PayPal, you can reach the Golden Swan Cadre at gmail.com. That's the TheGoldenSwancadre at gmail.com. For those of you listening on the Village Global Network, again, I say the Golden Swan Cadre at gmail.com is where you can go to make a donation to this wonderful cause and these wonderful women who are doing excellent things for people who require their services.
And we want to thank you, David, for giving me and us the opportunity to come on your platform. We appreciate it. We know that you could have had anybody else on here, and we do appreciate that you took the time to let us have this platform to speak about it.
No problem. When we go off air, we need to discuss something a little bit, but I'm thinking, yeah, we're coming too close to a close. I do want to take a minute to tell you all about the Village Global Network and the syndication that is reaching 88 countries globally.
Wow.
Yes, Culture Shock Radio is here to globally bring you music and other creative audio slash shows that will inspire, entertain, and educate you with you, all while enjoying the latest from the soon to be greatest. That's something I put in my status. All right. For stations, this station is audience is 18 years of age or older, also playing for those with legal and lawful permission from a parent or guardian and or have been judicially emancipated. All shows air in Eastern Standard Time and are as follows. Mondays, we'll bring you Whose Mic Is This from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. ish every other Monday. In the Field Radio from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. and Monday nights with Mr. No Weapon at 11 p.m. to 12 a.m. Tuesday has Write Your Own History TV hosted by It's Only Right from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. On Tuesday as well, we have What We Talking About presented by Finally TV and King Blackout. 9 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. We have Wednesdays, the Midnight City Master Mix show with Natalie Elba and DJ Anthony Fuentes from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. The Philosophy show from 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Candid Conversations with replays at 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And we also have In the Studio with the Rec Boys on Wednesday from 10 p.m. till 11:30 p.m. On Thursdays, we have EP's Quiet Storm with Teddy Bear Letters from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. We also have Healing with Miss Peggy Autumn's Way from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. So the first one was 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. Second one was 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Let's Get Activated. The podcast starts at 10 p.m. and run till 11 p.m. Fridays, we have Tea Time with Bunky, the radio podcast from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. We also have Lou Wood's radio show from 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Couples Therapy with DJ B Lethal starts at 10 p.m. and runs until 12 a.m. Saturdays, the Just Cooling radio podcast featuring Dawson's Jewels runs from 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. The Terrell Effect can be heard again at 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. and DJ Rampage presents Mixed Show Madness happens from 11 p.m. to 12 a.m. Sundays, Gate Seekers radio podcast is on from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. and the Proving Grounds, a village meeting series, is on from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Ladies and gentlemen, it took me a total of 3 minutes to run through the station schedule, and it'll take you a total of 18 plus hours to watch all of those shows. So if you ain't got nothing going on or you want to put something on in the background, tune into Culture Shock Radio, tune into the Village Global Network, tune in to sharetheshock.ca, look up the Golden Cadre, donate to the Golden Cadre. You know what I mean? We got to do everything we can for our Madres. So donate to the Golden Cadre. There you
Thank
go.
you. Thank you. Thank you. And we're going to make mention of you as well. We appreciate you very much, David.
All right, all right. Much appreciated. All right, so for Expose the North, the Golden Cadre, Candid Conversations, this is the Block, David the Block Terrell saying, bless up, we out.
We are.